right, so the last thing we need to do in this section is practicing going to our different bases. So base 2, and I've got some here where we're going to base 12. This is where we're going to be using the repeated subtraction. There aren't as many of these to practice on in my math lab, so you don't get quite as much practice as on the other way. But just be, I do expect you to be able to go both ways. So don't make some assumption that, oh, just because there aren't any, then I'm not going to have to do that one on the test. They're both fair game, so be prepared to do both ways. To go to a different base, we're going to list out some of my exponents off to the side because I don't quite know all of them. So I'm just going to list some out. 2 to the 0 is 1. 2 to the first is 2. 4, 8, 16, 32. I'll do one more. 2 to the 6. Oops. 2 to the 6 is 64. So that's really close. So I'm going to use 2 to the 6. That's a whole bunch of spaces then to get all the way there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's very important, especially on base 2, to make sure and put out your spaces there because you're going to have zeros a lot because all you can use is ones and zeros. So you're going to have a lot of zeros, so you want to make sure and not forget about them. So I think it's really important to put those spaces out there so you get your place value. So the 2 to the 0, 2 to the first, squared, cubed, fourth, fifth, sixth. We're going to start with the biggest possible. So I'm going to start with 64, which is 2 to the 6. I can subtract one of those. Now I'm left with 3, so I cannot subtract 32. Oh, my pen stopped working again. I cannot subtract the 32. I cannot subtract 16. I can't subtract it because I only have 3 left. I can't subtract 8. I can't subtract 4. I can subtract 2. I subtracted it. Oops. I said I couldn't subtract 4. I put a 0 there. I should put a 0 there. I put 4 because I said 4. I can subtract 2 one time. I'm left with 1. We could think about I'm subtracting 1 to get down to that, or whatever you're left with, you can just automatically put there. Kind of 2 ways to think about it. They're going to give you the same answer. I'll write up a little bit neater. So there is my answer in base 2. Let's try one down here in base 12. All right, so we've got 2 of these that we can look at for base 12. And let me see which one. I want to do one, and I want to give you guys one to do. I will do this first one. So base 12, I'm going to write out some powers, and I don't know many of my base 12s. I know 144. 12 cubed is 1,728, so too many. I can't go that far. I can only go up to 1,277, so just 3 spots. 12 squared, 12 to the first, and 12 to the 0. All right. This one's going to be a little painstaking, I have to tell you. That's why I'm going to do it. Remember there was one that was kind of long. I'm going to subtract 144, and I'm going to have to do this a whole bunch of times. And I've got to keep doing it until I can't do it anymore. So if I subtract 144, and I think it's 8 times that I have to do it. So I'm just going to keep subtracting 144 until I can't do it anymore. That's one of the problems with base 12 is you can have to do something up to 12 times. I'm out of space, so I'm just going to bring it up here. I'm just going to keep going until I can't go anymore. Almost there. All right, so let's count up how many times that was. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep, so I did that 8 times. Now, next I have to subtract 12. That could take forever, but I just want to show you a shortcut. I know that 12 times 10 is 120 because I can just think about adding that 0 on, and we'll talk about why that happens when we get to multiplication. But 12 times 10 is 120, so I could just subtract 120 and make a shortcut and said, hey, instead of showing minus 12, minus 12, minus 12, minus 12, minus 12, minus 12 10 times, I could just kind of do it off to the side here and say I'm doing it 10 times. So 10 times of doing 12, 10 times 12 is 120. So I'm just going to write a T here for 10. Remember, 1 0 doesn't mean 10. It means a dozen and 0 ones. I'm left with 5, so that's my answer I can put right here. So my final answer is 8T5, base 12. All right, so I've got a smaller number here for you guys to try, and you should not have to subtract a whole bunch of times. So go ahead and hit pause and see if you can work this last example. Let's see how you did. So again, I'm going to go up to 12 squared. So I was going to be subtracting 144. But luckily this time it was a much smaller number, so I didn't have to subtract nearly as many times. So I subtracted 1, 2, 3 times. Then I was left with the number 23. So I have to subtract 12, and I'm left with 11. I can't subtract anymore, so I subtracted 12 one time. I'm left with the number 11. I can't leave that as 1, 1. In base 12, I'm going to write that as E. So my answer is 3, 1, E, base 12.